everybody, this is part 2 of me reading my book, Teddy Bear's Adventure. Okay, I remember where Teddy Bear woke up to the smell of her aunt cooking and the other women in her tribe cooking. She wasn't used to all the women of her tribe cooking, only one occasions like festivals or birthdays, weddings, but not like this. She was kind of happy to see it, but she was also sad. She remembered when her and all the other kids would gather some of the food, then they would all play together and wait for storytelling from the elders. After the storytelling, they all sat and ate a big feast. This was different. She had to find her mother and father and put a stop to Fleabag. Teddy Bear just didn't know how yet. She hoped that her ancestors would help her out. She was lost in her own thoughts that she didn't see her aunt come over to her with food and a pack. Teddy Bear, you must eat before you go on your path, her aunt said to her, handing her the plate and the pack. Teddy Bear took both from her aunt. She ate until she was sure she was full. As she went to get up, her aunt spoke again. I will take care of this, little one. You must take this back and go outside to see your uncle. He has something for you. Teddy Bear handed her aunt the plate and then finally stood up. She put the pack on and gave her aunt a hug. Her aunt hugged her back. Her aunt whispered in her ear, please be safe, my niece, and bring my sister and brother-in-law back safe. Sunshine kissed her forehead. As they pulled apart, Teddy Bear seen tears in her aunt's eyes. Her aunt didn't have any kids yet, and her aunt treated her as one of her own. She gave another hug to her aunt, and her aunt the plate on the floor. It crashed into pieces. Sunshine gave Teddy Bear the biggest hug. They both cried, but knew that it wasn't goodbye forever, just goodbye for now. I will be okay, Teddy Bear. Please find your mother and father, and all three of you come home, said her aunt. They pulled away, and her aunt had to look away to stop crying. Teddy Bear understood. She walked away from her aunt to the cave opening and walked fast into the water. As soon as she was out of the cave, she had only walked a few feet in the grass when she seen her uncle coming towards her with something in his hands. Her uncle came closer to her, and she seen what was in his hands, a bow and arrows. Oh, sorry about that. You will need these, said her uncle. Her uncle then handed them to her, which made her smile. The bow had been carved to have a teddy bear symbol on it. Teddy Bear looked up at her uncle. Thank you, uncle, said Teddy Bear. Anything to keep you safe and for you to food, said her uncle. I have some spelling mistakes in this, but I am still proud of this book. Teddy Bear knew how to kill for food. Her uncle had shown her when she was real little. She knew that on this adventure she would have to put her skills to use. Her uncle hugged her, and she hugged him back. He was a strong man, but he too had emotions. Teddy Bear felt a tear on her face, but not from her. Her uncle had a single tear. Be safe and come home, he said. Teddy Bear let go of her uncle and nodded. I will, said Teddy Bear. Teddy Bear then walked away into the woods. She looked back to see her uncle waving. Then he turned to go into the cave for the other men to search for other missing tribe members. Teddy Bear looked ahead into the woods and kept walking. She wasn't how long she had walked, but when she looked back, she couldn't see the cave anymore. Teddy Bear looked ahead and kept on walking. She thought maybe if she walked further, she could then set up camp and rest. She then heard a noise, and quickly she grabbed her bow and an arrow. Teddy Bear had it aimed at the spot the noise had been. Then out came a boy about her age. He was a very strange boy. He wore the white man's clothes, but had the same color skin as her. The boy stopped walking when he seen the arrow aimed at him. He put up his hands. Can you please not shoot me? Asked the boy. Teddy Bear narrowed her eyes, but didn't listen to the little boy's command. She wasn't sure yet if he was a friend or foe. Okay, do you understand? No, shoot me, said the boy. The boy pointed to himself as if she didn't hear him and like she was dumb. I can understand your talk, white boy, but I don't know if I can trust you. Us Native Americans are not stupid, said Teddy Bear. The little boy put down his hands. Well, you just stared at me like you couldn't understand, so how was I supposed to know? And for your information, I am only half white. Teddy Bear lowered her bow and arrow to the ground. What do you mean that you're half white? You wear the white man's boy clothes, asked Teddy Bear. The boy sat down and sighed. I knew this would happen. My parents are not traditional parents. My father is white and my mother is Native American, like you. My mother is even married to my father, but she doesn't love us, said the boy. The boy had tears in his eyes when he said the last part. Teddy Bear sat down next to him. I don't understand how a parent can't love their own child, said Teddy Bear. The little boy looked over at her with tears still in his eyes. My mother doesn't love us because she loves your father, said the boy. Chapter 3. Your mother is Fleabag, and how did you know that my father was her crush? Asked Teddy Bear in a shocked tone. The boy looked at Teddy Bear. When I looked at your face from what my father said about your father, you look half like him and half like your mother. Teddy Bear looked at the little boy and he looked at her. My tribe doesn't have any kind words about her. She can't have my father. The story I had heard from my uncle is that she left our tribe to never return because she wanted revenge for my father marrying my mother, then having me, said Teddy Bear. Well, I know that it's not your fault that my mother loves your father, but she never truly loved me or my father, said the boy. The boy looked up at the sky. It was starting to get dark. I should probably head home, said the boy. They both stood up. Can I go with you? Asked Teddy Bear. The little boy rubbed his chin with his hand. On 3 conditions. First, we get to know each other more. I don't know your name, and you don't know mine, which mine is Calvin, by the way, said Calvin. Teddy Bear thought for a moment. Okay, that sounds fair. My name is Teddy Bear. They shook hands. My second condition is can I go with you if it's okay with my father, of course, said Calvin. As long as you tell me the truth as to why you were out here in the first place, said Teddy Bear. Deal, said Calvin. What is your third condition? Asked Teddy Bear. Calvin looked down at his shoes. Well, I don't have any friends because of my parents. Can you be my friend? Teddy Bear did understand because it was frowned upon of 2 different races to marry or to even have children together. She felt sorry for him and felt like something else she couldn't explain about him. A crush, maybe? Teddy Bear shook it out of her. Yes, but as long as you promise to never ever betray me, said Teddy Bear with narrowed eyes. I promise it, said Calvin. They shook hands again and Calvin led Teddy Bear towards his home. They talked all the while to get to know each other better. Teddy Bear told him all about her tribe, and Calvin told her about his life living with his father. When he had started talking about his mother, he stopped talking. What did your mother do to you? You stop talking when you go to talk about her, said Teddy Bear. Calvin looked down at his shoes. Before she left my father and me, my mother and father were yelling at each other, and then she turned to me and said that she never wanted me. Calvin had tears in his eyes, and Teddy Bear held back to hug him. That can't be true. She must have still loved you, said Teddy Bear, trying her best to make him feel a little better. I know that trying to make me feel better, but it is not true, said Calvin. They were walking closer to a small townhouse that they didn't realize when a man in the same clothes as Calvin, but bigger size, walking towards them and with a long beard. Calvin, how dare you run off into the woods without any protection, screamed the man. The man looked at his son and then at Teddy Bear. Oh, hello, do you need a room to sleep in for the night? Yes, Teddy Bear. My name is Thomas Stewart. I run the inn, and my son here is just a good boy. He just doesn't think sometimes. Thomas glared at Calvin. I'm sorry, Father. I was just upset, said Calvin. Thomas looked at his son with a frown. I know, son, but I still love you. Calvin smiled at his father. Now come inside, both of you, said Thomas. Thomas turned around and went inside. My father is still hurting, said Calvin. Teddy Bear hugged Calvin. Let's go inside. Calvin nodded and they both walked into the house. Chapter 4. Thomas had known who Teddy Bear was and told her that he wasn't upset with her. It was his own wife that made him angry. I was madly in love with her, but she always longed for your father. I would hear her talk in her sleep, that she would get her revenge. I'm sorry, Teddy Bear, said Thomas. Thomas looked at Teddy Bear. Would you know where and if she would have taken them? Asked Teddy Bear. Were you part of the raid in our village? Teddy Bear wanted to know so much to be able to find out the truth. I have some idea of where she could have taken them, and no, I was not part of the raid. Fleabag has no sense of real love, said Thomas. She is pure evil, said Calvin. Thomas had looked at his son with a scowl. He softened his face. You're right, my boy. Even though I don't like it, I still love her, but I know that she will never come back, said Thomas. Teddy Bear looked at Thomas. She had overnight felt joy with this family. Could you both come with me? Asked Teddy Bear. Please, Father, asked Calvin. They both looked at Thomas, who rubbed his beard. I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I haven't had anyone else come stay here after my wife left. Yes, but first we must get some rest for the travel, said Thomas. After they ate dinner, Calvin showed Teddy Bear where she could get some sleep. Teddy Bear was tired from the day, but liked her time with Calvin. She felt a fluttery feeling whenever she was around him. She was too young for love, or was she? She shook off the feeling. Here is where you'll be sleeping, said Calvin. Teddy Bear looked at where Calvin was pointing to see a bed with 2 pillows and a quilted blanket on top. Teddy Bear stepped into the room and sat down on the bed. She wasn't used to a bed. In her tribe, they used blankets that were made from dried animal hides. Teddy Bear was soon fast asleep. The next morning, Calvin came into her room to wake her up. Hey, are you awake? Calvin asked, gently opening up one of Teddy Bear's eyes. Teddy Bear blinked away his hands and sat up on the bed. Calvin jumped a little. You didn't have to do that, you know, said Teddy Bear, rubbing her eyes. Calvin looked down at her. Sorry, since I've gotten to know you, I have been caring a lot about you, said Calvin shyly. Teddy Bear looked at Calvin and placed her hands on his shoulders. Calvin, now you look at me. You can just ask me if I'm awake. You don't have to do that to my eye, exclaimed Teddy Bear. Calvin looked in Teddy Bear's eyes. Teddy Bear blinked away the weird feeling that she felt. Come on, I'll race to get breakfast, Teddy Bear said while punching Calvin gently in the arm. As soon as she had said that, she ran with Calvin right behind her, laughing. Chapter 5. Once they all three had finished eating, Thomas had packed for him and Calvin. He then left a note on the girl. I was supposed to say house, saying that he wasn't sure when he would be back, but that he would be back. Thomas pulled out a map to where he thought his wife would be. They walked for a long time until finally the sun was setting. They decided to make camp for the night. When they were done, they sat around the fire talking. No, Teddy Bear, Fleabag doesn't smell anymore. I taught her to take a bath so she wouldn't stink. I told her that I loved her, and she played with me as a fool, even after we were married and had Calvin, said Thomas. Teddy Bear had asked because of what her tribe elders had said. The elders didn't know after she left, but they did tell stories to make the little ones afraid of going out the woods until they were old enough to explore on their own. The elders even told of Fleabag not being smart enough to do all of this stuff. Teddy Bear was deep in thought when there was a rustling in the shadows. All of them got up and grabbed their weapons and aimed at the woods. The moon hung low over the forest, casting silver light through the trees as Teddy Bear walked quietly behind her uncle. Wait. Wait, what? I think I think I kind of goofed up with this book a little bit. Oh, I think I went into like I don't know. This must have been like a little vision, and I didn't put it as that. So I'm gonna read this, and that's why I was like pausing for a minute to read in my head, because I think I accidentally made a vision, like a day vision, and I forgot to like somehow, yeah. So this one I'm not sure if I'm quite proud of. The moon hung low over the forest, casting silver light through the trees as Teddy Bear walked quietly behind her uncle. The search for her parents had led them deeper into unfamiliar territory. Places where even Sitting Crow admitted he had never hunted. The butterfly key in her pouch felt heavier tonight, as if it knew something she didn't. They had stopped to rest near a cluster of stones shaped like sleeping animals. Sunshine was preparing a small fire, while Sitting Crow sharpened his blade. Teddy Bear wandered a few steps away, drawn by a strange rustling in the brush. She crouched low, her hand instinctively reaching for the pouch. The rustling stopped, and a voice, low, bitter, and familiar, slithered through the air. "You look just like your mother." Teddy Bear froze. From behind the trees stepped a woman wrapped in tattered cloth, her hair wild and matted, her eyes gleaming with something darker than anger. "Fleabag," Teddy Bear whispered. Fleabag smiled, but it was not kind. "I warned them. I warned your father. You chose her over me, and now you carry the key." Teddy Bear stepped out. "What do you mean?" Fleabag's eyes flickered to the pouch. "The key unlocks more than you know. It's part of the prophecy. Your grandmother saw it in vision, but she didn't see me." She stepped closer, her voice rising. "They built that cave to hide from me, but I found another way. I've made friends in the shadows. The white man who attacked your village, they didn't come on their own." Teddy Bear's heart pounded. "You helped them?" Fleabag's smile twisted. "I guided them. I told them where to strike. I told them who to take." Teddy Bear's breath caught. "My parents, they're alive," Fleabag said, "for now, but if you want to see them again, you'll have to give me the key." Before Teddy Bear could answer, Sitting Crow's voice rang out. "Teddy Bear." Teddy Bear woke up to a strange smell of blood and urine. Was that a vision she had? Yep, that's what I thought. She wasn't sure. She slowly got up and looked around. Her head hurt a little bit. She remembered getting hit in the head after Thomas did. They were ambushed by some people she didn't even know. "Calvin, Thomas, where are you?" she screamed. Teddy Bear heard a groan coming from beside the tent. She got up and slowly moved around to the noise. It was Calvin slowly waking up. She ran to him and helped him up. "What happened?" asked Calvin, rubbing his head. "We were attacked by the people I don't know," said Teddy Bear. Calvin looked at Teddy Bear. "Why, and where is my father?" asked Calvin. Teddy Bear looked around. There was no sign of Thomas anywhere. "I don't know. I see blood in the grass over there," said Teddy Bear, going over to the spot. Calvin followed her over to the spot. Did you happen to see how badly your father got hit in the head?" asked Teddy Bear. Calvin shook his head back and forth in a no position. "I think that we should follow the trail of blood," said Teddy Bear. "Yes, I think we should," Calvin agreed with Teddy Bear. Teddy Bear and Calvin packed up what was left of the camp and followed the trail of blood. They kept walking and walking. The blood trail would turn left and right. They didn't know how far they had traveled until they seen a dark mansion-like house. The house was almost as tall as a tree, and had very dark curtains hanging in the windows. The house had broken windows, like someone had thrown rocks as if they were angry. "The trail ends here," said Teddy Bear. Calvin looked all around the house and noticed a trapdoor on the side of the house. Teddy Bear looked, said Calvin. Teddy Bear looked, and she too seen the trapdoor. "We should go in," said Teddy Bear. "Are you crazy? What if they are right there?" asked Calvin. Teddy Bear looked at him. "Well, what do you think we should do?" asked Teddy Bear. "We should use the door." "I doubt they would be guarding the door," said Teddy Bear. Teddy Bear shrugged. "Okay, I'm trusting you." "I would not ever break your trust, Teddy Bear. I really like you a lot," said Calvin, blushing. Teddy Bear was blushing too. "Let's talk about it later. We have to find your father, along with my mother and father," said Teddy Bear, puffing out her chest. Calvin shook his head, and they both walked up to the house steps. As they got near the door, they didn't see anyone. "Do you want to go in first?" asked Teddy Bear. "I was always told ladies first," said Calvin. Teddy Bear blushed again, but walked in first. Calvin walked in after her. The door creaked open, revealing a wide, shadowy hallway. The air inside was stale, thick with dust, and something sour, like rotten herbs and old secrets. Teddy Bear stepped in, her moccasins silent on the warped wooden floor. Calvin followed. His eyes darted into every corner. "This place feels wrong," he whispered. Teddy Bear nodded. "It's not hers. She took it." The hallway stretched ahead, lined with faded wallpaper and crooked picture frames. A broken chandelier hung above, its crystal swaying gently, though there was no breeze. They passed a room with shattered piano, keys scattered like teeth. Another room held a fireplace filled with ash and bones. Animal, maybe, or not. She's been here a while, Tabor murmured. Calvin paused at the doorway. Look. Inside was a study. Papers lined the floor and a map was pinned to the wall, marked with red circles. One of them was over their village, another over the waterfall cave. Tabor stepped closer, her heart tightening. She planned the attack. Calvin picked up a torn page from the floor. It was a letter, half burned. The handwriting was jagged and angry. Calvin smiled hard. She really did this because of your father? Tabor nodded slowly. She loved him, but he didn't love her back. She couldn't let it go. Sorry. I have to take a break, and there most likely will be a part 3 because I gotta clean my nose and everything. I have I don't know. And I will be back with part 3.